Hello, I'm here with my monthly look at the previews catalog from Diamond Distribution. Stuff that's being solicited for sale January 2024. In theory, should come out in a couple months. Doesn't always work that way. So I'm going to jump into it. First of all, from the Marvel catalog. Miracle Man by Gaiman and Buckingham, the Silver Age trade paperback. I've honestly kind of lost track of all these Miracle Mans. I'm not sure what's been collected, what hasn't, what's been solicited already. So I don't know if this is already solicited for in a hardcover or something. I can't remember. But anyway, thought I would mention it. Long awaited, 20... probably almost 30 years, maybe 30 years exactly, in the works. So anyway, also available, Miracle Man, The Golden Age, the first Gaiman and Buckingham story, which was out of print for a million years and finally came back into print. So anyway, new Gaiman and Buckingham Miracle Man, thought it was worth a mention. Also, just of minor thing of note, I'm sure a lot of people are already aware of these books, but these Mighty Marvel Masterworks. This is Daredevil Volume 3, has Daredevil 22 through 32. These are little kind of trim size paperbacks, manga size, maybe slightly larger than manga, less pages, of course. 240 pages, that's a pretty good amount of pages. Anyway, I think these would be much cooler if they were full-sized, but they are in full color, and they're nice little books. So anyway, thought I'd mention those. A lot of the premium stuff's kind of already been put out, or you'd be in mid-list. But anyway, thought it was worth a mention. I didn't own any of these books, but I have looked at them in the stores, and I think they're pretty sharp-looking. I don't know. I feel like Marvel's been dedicated to giving us their classic stuff in the least convenient format forever. The Marvel Masterworks are great, but they're so expensive. Anyway, nice color paperbacks would have been nice to have a long time ago. From DC. Thought I'd mention this. Jeffrey Brown. Long ago alternative comics guy. He's been doing kind of, Star Wars stuff and cat stuff for years. But here he is doing a Batman and Robin and Howard book for kids. Standard comic size. It's just a single issue. 40 pages for $3.99, so it's a little larger. Not sure how long this runs, what the deal is, but anyway, just saw Jeffrey Brown, thought I'd mention it. On the opposite page here, Primer #1. This was already released as a graphic novel, and now it's kind of being released as standard comic size, regular issues. I don't really know anything about this. It's written by Jennifer Muro and Thomas Krajewski, art and cover by Gretel Lusky. Those aren't names I'm familiar with. I came across this on social media recently, and it apparently is a huge seller. So, just thought I'd mention it. There are some people who keep up on YA stuff. And of course, there's the constant back and forth about the poor direct market and what's going to happen to it. So, anyway, we'll see. Probably will sell 10 copies in the direct market and hundreds of thousands at bookstores, Amazon, and the like. Jumping into the catalog. First thing of interest for me was Last Man, Volume 4, right here, by written by Bullock and Various, art and cover by Michael Sanyaville and Bastien Vives. Trying to see how dark this is, sorry. Let me put on the overhead light. Okay. I don't have any shiny paper, I don't think so. Anyway, Last Man, Volume 4. The previous 3 volumes collected the first 6 parts. Those had been previous released by First Second years ago, but it stalled out. Kirkman picked this up for Image and has now been packaging them in trim size, 6x9, soft covers, 416 pages. It's a good amount of stuff. I'm a big fan of this series, and I'm excited to have new material. It's very fun, sort of a French manga style. Also point out Quest Volume 1, written by Jonathan Luna and Crystal Wood. Art is by Jonathan Luna, one half of the Luna brothers, who used to work together and now don't anymore. Anyway, I don't know anything about the series, but I like the Luna brothers, so I will probably be checking that out. From Titan, Savage Sword of Conan, the original comics omnibus, Volume 1. I'm pretty sure this was solicited a long time ago. But here it is. So I don't think that ever came out. Now they're sort of reloading with it. Collects Savage Tales 1 through 5 and the Savage Sword of Conan 1 through 12. It's in comic sized instead of magazine size, so that is one downside. It's also 968 pages, $150, which is pretty hefty. But anyway, I thought I would mention it. Not the sort of thing I'm going to pull my trigger on, but if it was $50 less, I might be tempted to do so. From Ablaze. So this is kind of a interesting thing to me. Torpedo 1972 #1. So this is a regular comic. It is a sequel to a series of graphic novels, Torpedo 1936. It says here there were 15 volumes of Torpedo 1936. I believe that we got 7 here in the US, all from Catalan. They're really beautiful. The art is by Jordi Bernay. I believe he's the artist on all the ones that got translated. They were all written by this guy, Enrique Sanchez Abuli, and he's back to write this sequel. The artist is Eduardo Rizzo, who did 100 Bullets. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. I don't think nearly as highly of Rizzo as an artist as I do of Bernay, but kind of interested in this. I'd probably wait for the collection myself, but did think it was an interesting thing to mention. Something I will get tomorrow, The Birds by Osamu Tezuka. Nice 324 page softcover. This is, I think, the second Tezuka book that Ablaze has put out. They previously just released 100 Tales. Anyway, very exciting that we're getting more Tezuka. I'm really looking forward to seeing whatever they give us. Over at Dark Horse, Empowered Volume 12 by Adam Warren, resolicited from who knows how many months ago. Adam Warren is one of my guilty pleasures. Really like his work. It's sort of silly. He can sure draw. Also here, Hellboy Artist Collection, Richard Corbin. I'm not really a Hellboy guy, to be honest with you, but I do like Richard Corbin, and I like the idea of having all the Corbin stuff in one collection. Obviously, this won't be a part of the Corbin library that Dark Horse is also publishing, but pretty interesting. It's a 8x12 hardcover, 312 pages. That is a hefty presentation. $50, also a hefty price to go along with it, but interesting, and not really interesting, but just good timing that they're putting this out at the same time they're collecting the solo Corbin work. Thought I'd mention this book here, Medea, by Blandine Lacalette. and art by Nancy Pina. It doesn't say, I'm assuming it's a translated work, but it doesn't say where it's from. It just says English translation by Montana Kane. Anyway, 320 pages, soft cover, intriguing cover image. Dark Horse does put out just random foreign work. Some of it is pretty good, and some of it you don't know because you've never heard of it. I know you only get this much of an explanation, but I really wish they could give you some more information about the book itself, not just the story. It would be nice to know what country is it from, when did it come out. They'll usually tell you if it won an award, but that's about the most they'll tell you. Also up here, thought I'd mention The Midnight Show trade paperback. It's by Cullen Bunn and Brian Hurt. It's the same guys who did The Sixth Gun at Oni. They might be working on something now. I can't remember. Anyway, I liked The Sixth Gun years ago. Can't say I've really kept up with Cullen Bunn in recent years, but thought I'd mention it. Over at IDW, EC Covers Artisan Edition. The Artisan Editions are the more affordable artist editions. Really gorgeous books, and obviously this is going to include just some of the greatest covers in comics history. Frazetta, Al Williamson, Johnny Craig, real Murderer's Row, Wally Wood. Totally worth checking out, especially in a more affordable format and a more easy to store size. For Better or For Worse, The Complete Library Volume 8. I've been picking these up. I'm a big fan of this strip. I'm not sure how many volumes it's planning to go, but we got to be nearing the end here. Anyway, For Better or For Worse, if you're over a certain age, you probably read it in the newspaper. I did. Really like it. I think Lynn Johnson's a wonderful cartoonist. Really happy this strip got the collected treatment. Not sure who wants this nowadays, but figure I'll mention it. Cerebus, the Aardvark Facsimile Edition. The standard edition it's basically an exact copy of the original Cerebus, except for it has kind of a nicer cardstock cover. $20, which is outrageous. It's just a money grab by Sim to try to stay afloat. But it is a seminal, not in terms of art, capital A art, but in terms of the business of comics. It is a seminal comic. It's one of the most important comics of the 70s. And of course, later on, it would go on to be one of the most seminal capital A art comics of all time. So I thought I'd mention it. Something I know nothing about Comics, publishing Bootsy's Big 50s, a Dark Laughter collection. This was a strip that would appear in, it was a weekly cartoon panel, Dark Laughter, and it appeared in African American newspapers in the 20th century. I'm assuming probably more of the early 20th century. Or maybe it's the Big 50s, like the title says. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that's of interest to me, for sure. Something I've never heard of before. Cover looks great. Should be interesting to see what that's like. Jump ahead a little bit. This is a book I don't know anything about, but I know the publisher, Avery Hill, a quality publisher out of the UK. Safer Places by Kit Anderson. Just looks like a nice solid graphic novel. Probably not one I'll pull the trigger on ahead of time, but I'll be curious to see what it looks like when it hits our shores. From Cinebook, Buck Danny Classics Volume 6, Red Alert. Here we go. Written by Frederick Zumbiel and Frederick Marniquette. Art is by Jean-Michel Aurorial. Anyway, these are what it looks like. If you can see the little thumbnail here, just jet fighting comics. Yeah, pretty stiff, but definitely well-made entertainment for young, well, generally young boys probably, but for young people. Here's another series, Harry Dixon Volume 1, Mysterion. This one's written by Jean Ray and Luana Vigari. Art is by Doug Headline and Onofrio Catocchio. Don't know anything about this. It's described as being part Sherlock Holmes, part The X-Files. That doesn't really sell it, but I may give this a shot since it's a number 1 of a series, and I do like mysteries. So why the hell not? Okay. Drawn and Quarterly. Gleam by Freddie Carrasco. I know the title, but I don't know the creator, and I'm interested. Imbued with cyberpunk attitude and in the rebellious tradition of Afrofuturism. So, anyway, sounds interesting, worth looking at. Another book I know nothing about, So Long, Sad Love, written and drawn by Myriam Mal. Doesn't say where it's from, but I'm going to guess French, that it's French or French-Canadian, maybe. Anyway, lovely cover. We'll see. So many of these Drawn and Quarterly books are people I've never heard of before, so it's very hard to take a chance on them. You just have to kind of wait and you see them in person. Here's someone I am somewhat familiar with. This is Winnie the Pooh, written and drawn by Travis Dandro. He did a book, I think he's had maybe 2 books published by Drawn Quarterly, one of which I have, I think King of King Court, something like that. This is exactly what it sounds like. It is the beloved children's classic appearing as a graphic novel for the first time. I love Winnie the Pooh, the original books, incredible. Curious to see what he's done with this. It's an interesting kind of a square size, 8 by 8.125, 248 pages, so he certainly didn't skimp. But I'll be curious to see what this looks like. If it's fully comics or if it's just illustrated story, don't know. Anyway, we'll see. From Fantagraphics. All right. The Atlas Comics Library #2, Venus Volume 2. If that sounds confusing, that's because it is. Marvel published Venus Volume 1 as a Marvel Masterwork. Not sure quite how long ago that was, but it's been a few years. I don't have that, but I have seen it, and they're very interesting looking comics. I did get to see an advanced version of this book, and it looks great. So I'm kind of excited to see this and very excited to try to track down the first volume of Venus. I remember it being fairly affordable on eBay once upon a time. Maybe I'll go check that out again, see if I can beat the rush. But big oversized book, 8.75 by 11.25, 280 pages. This Venus started out as kind of a lighthearted romance comic about the goddess Venus taking a job at a beauty magazine. By the time you get into this volume, it's getting into sort of science fiction and horror, a totally different look. And I believe most, if not all, of these comics are by Bill Everett, and they look fantastic. So they're from the late 40s, maybe early 50s, but anyway, very cool looking. Love and Rockets, the sketchbooks by Gilbert Hernandez and Jaime Hernandez. The Hernandez brothers sketchbooks were published by Fantagraphics in 2 kind of slim soft covers back in the, I would guess, early 90s, maybe late 80s. Those are great books. if you have access to them, they're wonderful. This is going to be even better. It's just going to be a giant hardcover, 300 pages, 9.75 by 13. I believe it's going to be a flip book, one half Gilbert, one half Jaime, and they have dug far and wide to find as many pieces by these guys that were not published before. Anyway, I've seen some of the advanced stuff from this. They look fantastic. So it'll definitely be a new book for anyone out there who has the old stuff and is interested enough. There you go. Collection of paintings, A Doorway to Joe, The Art of Joe Coleman, kind of an outsider artist. This has 150 paintings, big hardcover book, $100. Not really the sort of thing I'm going to go for probably, but Fanta has published Joe Coleman books in the past, and they go out of print and go for a lot of money. So if it sounds like something you want, I would jump on it. Suffrage Song, The Haunted History of Gender, Race, and Voting Rights in the U.S. by Caitlin Cass. I'm not familiar with Caitlin Cass. She's a New Yorker cartoonist. So that is one I will have to reserve judgment on until I see. Haven't seen anything about it. Cover looks fantastic. Tinder by Beth Hetland. I met Beth Hetland at Cartoon Crossroads Columbus. She was very nice. I saw on her table that she had a sign that said basically her next book was coming from Fantagraphics, so of course that piqued my interest. This looks really good. So I'm looking forward to see it. I haven't read any of her work yet. This will probably be the first thing I get to. But yeah, anyway, interesting stuff. Another straight up graphic novel, Light It, Shoot It by Graham Chaffee. He did a very slim little book back in the early 90s called The Big Wheel for Fantagraphics. Disappeared for a very long time. Went off to be a tattoo artist, just live his life, and showed up again. God, probably, this is a stab in the dark, 15 years ago with a graphic novel. And he's published, I think, 3 from Fanta since. One of them was called Good Dog, which was about a dog. This one is a little different. If you're familiar with Chaffee's work, it's very black and white, just ink work and thick blacks everywhere. This one, he's done a lot of tones, all by hand. Really has a kind of Will Eisner look to it. A late era Will Eisner. Looks good. I prefer his earlier style, to be totally honest, but I haven't read the book, and I'm looking forward to that. Fanta's association with Sunday Press continues. Thimble Theater and the Pre-Popeye Comics of E.C. Segar, revised and expanded. Edited by Peter Maresca. So this has, I don't know how many pages the first edition of this had. This one's going to be 152 pages. They basically found some more stuff. It's going to go in there. So if you have the original, I don't know if you'd want to pop for an expensive book to get a few more pages, but if you don't have this, it's the chance to get pre-Popeye E.C. Segar. I mean, it probably has, 152 pages. I would imagine it has at least a couple years worth of material in there. And Segar did not work for very long. The Popeye stuff's all been collected by Fanta. The Thimble Theater stuff is really fun, though. Really good. Another Disney book. I won't really talk about that one. This one here is interesting. Stan Mack's Real Life Funnies by Stan Mack. This was I believe an alternative weekly strip. I'm not sure where they ran. But anyway, this book looks pretty amazing. It's going to be kind of the size of the IDW Dick Tracy or Little Orphan Annie's, that big, thick hardcover sized. Yeah, this is a mystery to me, but I'm very interested in it, that's for sure. Let's see. Floating World. out of Portland. They have a couple of interesting releases here. Black Phoenix Volume 3 by Rich Tommaso. I've seen tons of this stuff and haven't read any of it, so I can't speak to it, how good it is, but the stuff does look great, I will say. More interesting to me, Goiter by Josh Pettinger. It's just a collection of short stories by Josh Pettinger, who had a one-man anthology called Goiter, which he has recently sort of retired and is going to start up his own, another new one-man anthology, I believe. But anyway, this is exciting. A lot of those Goiter comics are not available at all. Pettinger is a kind of associate of Simon Hanselman, worked with him on the Werewolf and Sons Summer Annual. But he's a strong cartoonist on his own, so worth checking out. And also a resolicit from, looks like from September, New York City Outlaws, written by Bob Hussar, but more importantly, art by Ken Landgraf. This has become sort of a highly desired series by a lot of people, but it's almost impossible to find the issues. Once the kayfabe guys and the Power Comics guys got on this stuff, it's just made it tough. So anyway, looking forward to seeing this. It's gonna be a nice big size, 8x11, 300 pages. So looking forward to that. Much different kind of comic from Harper Alley, which I believe is like a kid's imprint. Ant Story, written and drawn by Jay Hosler. Jay Hosler has done a bunch of science comics for kids about bees, about Darwin. I first encountered his work 30 years ago in the Comics Buyer's Guide. He had a regular strip in there called Cowboy, about a guy who's dressed up in a cow costume. Anyway, I've always enjoyed his work. It's aimed towards younger readers, but he's a very good cartoonist. And I thought I would point it out. I like to keep up with his work as much as I can. All right, here's a book I know nothing about. The Mushroom Knight, Volume 1. This is from Mad Cave Publishing. And I don't know anything about it, but the art that was here looked pretty charming. Looked entertaining. Can't say it's the sort of thing I'm going to go for, but I definitely would like to pick it up in a store and take a look at it. Another book in the same vein that is charming, kind of whimsical art, Between Snow and Wolf, published by Magnetic, written by Agnes Domergue, illustrated by Helen Kanak. Once again, it doesn't really tell you where it's coming from, which is kind of irritating. But anyway, Magnetic puts out some interesting books. I'd mention it. I guess I should mention this book here. The Mushroom Knight, author and artist Oliver Bly. And not a name that's familiar with me, but that I'm familiar with. So anyway, thought I'd mention a couple of interesting looking ones. MIT Press, and yes, it is that MIT. The Phantom Scientist, written by Robin Cousin, and art is by Edward Govin. Don't really know anything about this book, other than it's large, 9x12, only 128 pages, but an isolated institute laid out in a Fibonacci sequence, hidden deep in the forest, etc., etc. So, no idea if MIT has ever published any comics before. Thought that was of note. NYRC, which has definitely published comics before. Masters of the Nefarious Mollusk Rampage by Pierre Lapolice. Never heard of this book, never heard of this cartoonist, but anything that New York Review Books puts out is of interest. I notice it says New York Review Books instead of New York Review Comics. I'm not sure if that's a mistake or if they're rebranding. On the book itself, it says NYRC, so that might just be how they write it. I guess maybe I've never noticed it before. From Oni. Hobtown Mysteries Volume 1, The Case of the Missing Men. Writer is Chris Burton. Artist is Alexander Forbes. So these Hobtown Mysteries, there have been a couple of these before, and I had heard that Oni had picked them up and was going to publish them. So I'm not sure if this is a brand new one or if they're republishing an older one. I haven't looked into that yet. I haven't read these, but I have seen them, and they look really fun. Definitely sort of thing that would be up my alley if it was well done. So I'm going to find out if this is a new one or a reprint of an old one. Full color, though. 300 plus pages. Yeah, looks interesting. So, I generally would never buy these PS art books, but I figured this one deserved a mention. PS Art Books, Classic Sci-Fi Comics Volume 7, Basil Wolverton. And on the cover here of the book in the slipcase is Space Hawk, Wolverton's great science fiction character. These things are just grotesquely overpriced. $53 for 140 pages. 184 pages. $53. Ridiculous. I don't know how much of this stuff has appeared anywhere else. I generally am not a fan of their presentation inside either, but if I found this one remaindered in a couple years, I would probably pick it up somewhere, but I definitely wouldn't pay that price. However, I love Wolverton. He's one of my favorite cartoonists, and he is normally the sort of guy that I would order something stupid like this for, but I'm not going to pull the trigger on this one. But I thought it deserved to mention in case someone out there is more hardcore than I am. From Rebellion, Judge Dredd Complete Case Files, Volume 21. There's already a Volume 21 out. So, this is the Simon & Schuster edition. Not sure what makes that different, if at all. But anyway, thought I'd mention it. The long-running Judge Dredd Complete Case Files. No idea if they're still working on those or if they're done. But there you go. Cool stuff. But be wary. If you've already bought a Volume 21, do not buy it again. From Tomorrow's. Back issue 151. This one's focused on dreams and nightmares. Has a Sandman cover. Looks like they're also talking to Matt Wagner and Stephen T. Siegel about Sandman Mystery Theater. Yeah, and some other stuff. But there's some interesting names in here. Colleen Doran, Kelly Jones, Dave McKean, P. Craig Russell, Bill Sienkiewicz, Jill Thompson, Michael Zulli. So, anyway, sounds like an interesting issue if any of that is up your alley. From Uncivilized Books, a graphic novel I know nothing about, but I'll mention it based on the strength of Uncivilized Books catalog. Evil Eyes C, which is by Ozge Samanci. And this is looks like a Turkish graphic novel, or at least it concerns in the run-up to Turkey's 1995-1996 election, blah, blah, blah. That's all it says. So I'm going to go on a limb and assume that it's a Turkish graphic novel. But if anyone knows better, please correct me. Anyway, should be at the very least worth looking at and checking out. In the manga section, two series that I've mentioned before, so nothing too exciting. Mao, Volume 16 by Rumiko Takahashi. Not sure how many of these there are going to be, but they're still plugging away. And Fist of the North Star, Volume 12. This is another one I can never remember how many more it's supposed to be. My friend Ray always chimes in and lets me know, oh, it's this many. I think it's 16 or 18 volumes. So, still going. These are gorgeous looking books, though. Highly recommended. That's everything. It felt like a much heftier month after a couple of months of not much stuff of interest, to be honest. So I'll have to make a lot more choices this month about what I want. And if there's something I overlooked, something I didn't give any shine to that you think I should have, let me know. Comments, questions, always welcome. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.